Now, Tim Conway was a true show business legend. He made us laugh for well over 50 years. From his start on The Gary Moore Show to McHale's Navy to his 11-year run on The Carol Burnett Show, he was a beloved national treasure. My next guest is the eldest of Tim's 7 children, and she's here to tell us what it was like to grow up with a comedy legend. She's written a brand new book about her experience called My Dad's Funnier Than Your Dad, Growing Up with Tim Conway in the Funniest House in America. And of that, I have no doubt. Please welcome from Los Angeles, Kelly Conway. Kelly, thanks for being with me. I had the pleasure, as I told you a little earlier, of interviewing your dad twice, visited him several times thereafter. Look, I know a lot of actors and comedians. The sunny side that you often see on TV or in public isn't quite what the family gets at home. Was Tim Conway as fun and lovable as the characters we saw him play on TV?
If it's possible, I think it was more, honestly. He just he didn't change on the drive home, you know. It was a fun-filled circus activity house forever. He was exactly how you think he would be.
He was always delightful and fun and self-deprecating and hilarious every time I saw him. Now, you start the book, and I want to get this out of the way. You start the book, My Dad is Funnier Than Your Dad, with a kind of painful recollection of the day in 2019 when he passed away. You were in the middle of a wardrobe fitting. You're a costume designer. Tell us about that difficult day.
Well, it kind of started... His wife, my former stepmom, decided a couple of years before that she didn't want me to see my dad anymore, or visit him, or talk to the doctors, or be involved in anything. And that was a battle, because my dad was my best pal, and it wasn't like I was every 4 years, Happy Father's Day daughter. It was just I talked to him every day or saw him every day. Because I'd rather hang out with him than anyone else I know. So we were super close, as close as it gets. And so I was pretty rattled by that. And it turned into an ugly lawsuit. And I didn't have anything magical to cure him or to save him. My goal was just to help him suffer less. So that morning, I got a call from a friend of mine, or a text from a friend of mine in New York. And she said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your dad." And I said, "What happened?" I was actually getting dressed to go see him.
Oh my God.
Because he was in a facility. But to find out, I actually pulled up the phone and Fox News feed. That's how I found out my dad had passed away.
You're right about the loss. You said, over the past year, I've watched helplessly as the father I loved succumbed to a terminal illness. Many people who've lost a loved one compare it to an abduction. Your dad had been suffering from dementia since 2018, so many people can relate to that pain of watching a loved one slip away from them. When did you first notice there was something wrong? Because I always found him so sharp, Kelly. He was always so on his game and observant, and the insights and quips fell out of him like rain from the sky.
Yes. He had something called normal pressure hydrocephalus, which is fluid. We all have this fluid running around our brains and our spinal cord, and it's supposed to drain in and out as your body works, how it's supposed to, but his wasn't. And so it creates this pressure in your head and fluid. And so that's what kind of started it. And the dementia part, it wasn't, I think that just came from the disease he had, which was the hydrocephalus. So
Kelly, tell me, when did you first realize that you were living with this comedic genius? I mean, you were born and grew up around the time that the Carol Burnett Show was on, and your dad was such an integral part of that show.
Well, my parents raised us, like, my dad's from Chagrin Falls, Ohio. My mom's from Dearborn, Michigan. Yeah. And they kind of raised us like we were in the Midwest. So we had this great house and property filled with tennis courts and volleyball and things and stuff everywhere. It was like a playground. So we never realized, I don't think, how he impacted other people and how people recognized him. I mean, yeah, if we went out to dinner, people would tell him, graciously how much they loved him, and he would always, talk to them and answer back, and have a conversation with them. But it wasn't any much more than that, because in the 70s in the Valley, it was kind of like being in the country.
During one of my interviews with your dad, I asked him what made the Carol Burnett Show such a success. Here's what he told me. What was it about that group of people and that time that made the Carol Burnett Show work?
Well, we were all alcoholics, so
that's a good start.
Gave us certain relaxation to the show. I guess it was the rhythm of the show, and Harvey and I were the best of friends, and Carol is the most generous person you can imagine, and so we never had any problems with a star going, I'll say that, and she was always willing to share the show, and I think that's what made it so good. I didn't necessarily want to do the show, but she said, you better come in and do it.
Or she was going to recall the loan.
Yeah.
That's what.
Right.
He always had a joke, and he told me later the thing that really defined the show was love. They all loved each other. Did your dad ever talk about those days and those people? I mean, his friends whom he got to play with every week.
He did, and he did used to say how I'm the luckiest guy in the world to work with my friends every day, and to, like you said, Carol was generous in the way that, some people might not have wanted him or Harvey or anybody on the show to upstage them, or to be funnier than them or prettier or, sing better. She was so, right. She let them do what they do best.
What was it like working with Harvey Korman? What was it about his particular straight man to your wacky, uncontrollable self that made those scenes crackle and work?
Well, Harvey was probably the most intelligent person I have ever met. I mean, he knew everything about everything, but the man could not tie his own shoes. So I could put him on rather easily. And I would tell him things that had no way of being true, and he would buy them. So whenever I had the opportunity, I would stab him.
Tell me about that relationship between your dad and Harvey Korman. I know he had a lot of close friends, but this was a different relationship.
They adored each other, and they're opposite. Harvey, their upbringing's a bit opposite. Their personalities are kind of opposite. They traveled together. They talked to each other. I think my dad liked to torture him also, because Harvey was a little bit paranoid.
Their relationship, again, that affection and even that relationship played out so many times in the skits, and even I saw them tour together. So it was still alive and well all those years after the Carol Burnett Show. Now, what was your father like at home? I mean, in the book you describe Tim Conway as a bit of a prankster, a ringleader.
Everything was an event to him. It wasn't just, like I said, it wasn't just let's go swimming or let's watch a movie. It was, okay, get your bathing suits on, get everybody in the neighborhood. We were having a swim meet, and he had teams. He had a trophy, like he would pick up an old swim fin and cover it in aluminum foil and nail it to a piece of wood, and that was the trophy. He put lanes in the pool. He had an Olympic podium, for gold, silver, and bronze winners. He had a barbecue for the athletes afterward, with announcements and photographers, and he set it up so it was a fun afternoon, no matter what we were doing. And
I have to show you this moment, Kelly. This is a little moment that we shared together. You'll probably remember this room. Watch. Now, during that interview, there was a little piece of video I want to share with you. Tim Conway referenced that he is a tailor. I want to show you how he's used that skill in the room where we shot the interview. Take a look. Now, is this your normal attire when in this room?
Yes, I come down here and relax. I have a bedspread made out of the same material, so comfortable wherever it's on.
Kelly, he's wearing the wallpaper. You know that he had the jacket that matched the wallpaper. He is hilarious.
He made that because he had extra fabric. His mom was a master seamstress, so she taught him how to sew, and they both taught me how to sew. So he had extra fabric, so he took apart a jacket that he bought, and he made a jacket out of a pattern of a jacket that he took apart, and he wore it to dinner that night. So he converted, and she became his godmother, if you can believe that. That was a weird turn of events. So my mom is my dad's godmother.
Well,
but
it sometimes works out that way.
Yeah. Well, you have to say volunteers, and there was nobody else there. So she said, "Oh, I'll be it." And so we went to church every Sunday, so they could kind of control us and grab our arm if we were making paper airplanes out of the Bible.
What did you learn about your dad after sitting down to write this memoir, through all the joy and the tears of it? And what do you most miss about Tim Conway?
I learned that he kind of, and I honestly, I'm old, and throughout the years and what he taught us was taught in a way, he and my mom, that was kind of sneaky. They were teaching us lessons without saying, okay, you can do this, you can't do that. In all these stories that I tell, he taught us how to be resourceful and handle situations without us knowing it. And, it took this long to realize it. The lessons that they taught us. And gosh, I miss him every day. He's just, when I would go visit him on a set, I go, Dad, I'm coming down for lunch. Where are you? He goes, oh, I think I'm either at Universal or Warner Brothers. I go, well, you need to tell me where you are. He goes, I don't know. So go to the gate and keep talking until you find me. I go, okay. He goes, because I don't even know what stage I'm on. Just find me. So I would eventually find him, and I would be in the back, if a stage is dark and behind cameras and he was blocking or rehearsing something on stage, I would say hi to somebody or be in the blacks. And when my dad and I saw each other, when we locked eyes, it was the most magical.
He was a magical person. He was a wonderful, gentle man, and his comedy was always so sweet, and everybody was pulled in. No matter where you came from, you could not resist his comedy, and I think that came from his sweetheart. He always had that tender touch and a kindness about him.
Yes.
And that's from the time I was growing up till the time I finally met him. He was a hero to me. So, and an American treasure. My Dad's Funnier Than Your Dad: Growing Up with Tim Conway in the Funniest House in America by Kelly Conway is available now at bookstores everywhere. Kelly, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you so much.
And a special hello to your dad. I know he's watching.
Thank you. Me too. Merry Christmas.